Today I'm going to talk about the subject of HOCD and magical thinking. Okay. Now, I've already done a video on this called HOCD signs and magical thinking, but in my support group, somebody left a comment which got me thinking maybe I should do another video. And this guy said something like this. He's 21 years old and he wears a brace. And I think it was on TikTok or some internet site that he went on. There was a guy there who was gay, 21 years old, just like him, and had a brace just like him. Okay, a brace in his teeth. And somehow he thought that magically, because he had a brace the same as the gay guy, then the brace was somehow magically going to turn him gay. So he was seriously thinking about having the brace removed. Okay? Now this is crazy thinking, but this is what happens in the field of obsessive compulsive disorder. This is what happens with Poirot. There's a thing called magical thinking and thought action fusion, which I'll get to in a bit. Okay? Now, there's other things that could happen, okay? You know, perhaps one day you were texting and your text autocorrects to gay, okay? Or you might walk down a street and you later find out that that's the side of the street that gays walk up and down on. Or you might go into a bar or into a gym or into a building of any type, and something will come on screen about gays and you think, oh my God, I walk into the building and this thing to do with being gay or whatever is on TV. That must be a sign for me. That must be the universe sending me a sign. The text autocorrecting to gay might be the universe sending me a sign, telling me I should come out, telling me what my orientation is, etc. so forth. Okay? Now, I'm not saying whether you're gay or whether you're not. You could be. Maybe you are. Maybe you're not. Who knows? But in obsessive compulsive disorder, magical thinking is a thing. And it's bullshit. Okay? Isn't it weird that if your buddy's text autocorrected to gay, you wouldn't think anything of it? But if your text autocorrected to gay, it's a sign, because OCD makes you feel special, okay? And special in the worst possible way, okay? It makes you feel special. It makes you think that the laws of the universe are different for you than they are for everyone else, okay? Well, guys, I'm not being funny here, but I got some news for you. Just like me, just like the guy next door, just like the person down the street, just like any of you, you were not special, okay? You were just unique. That's it. So you have the magical thinking, or what I would call standard magical thinking, okay? Where you see a random event and you interpret it as a meaningful coincidence. Okay? For example, the TV show coming on. For example, the text autocorrecting. And there are many, many, many different things that people, you know, like the brace, for example, okay? So you get what I would call standard magical thinking. Then you have what's also known as thought action fusion. Now, thought action fusion has two elements to it. You know, the way that I see it in Jesse terms, okay? It has two elements to it. Thought action fusion is when thinking a thought is as good as actually doing it. Now, for the sake of you HOCD guys, okay? If you had a thought, well, that guy over there is very good looking. Just by thinking the thought, you think it's as good as actually being gay, okay? And that is obviously very commonplace with HOCD. The other side of thought action fusion is when you have a thought and you think just by having the thought, you can actually make it happen. Because the laws of the universe are different for you than they are for everyone else. Okay? You know, OCD is a storyteller. It tells us stories. And it convinces us of shit, you know, obviously that has no foundation. Okay? So, you know, back in my day when my OCD was really bad, and notice I said OCD, okay? I would have images of, you know, you might even find this humorous, I don't know, because it is so childish. But I'd have images of my mother, who was very old and frail at the time. I had images of her being body slammed, right? Or images of her falling. I'd have images of people breaking in and just slamming her to the ground and stuff like that. And these thoughts were so frightening to me, I used to push them away. I used to suppress them. Because I thought if I allowed that thought to come into my head, then I would magically make that happen. Because lo and behold, just the same as every other fucker who've suffered with OCD, I think that the laws of the universe were different for me than they were for everyone else. Okay? So, you know, if you think in your own way, and not just HOCD, but whatever form of OCD you have, that you can make something happen just by thinking about it, then I suggest you let me know, because I will seriously earn a lot of money. And I'm looking around the room for something to... Hold on a sec. Okay, here's my camera case. I am going to use the power of my mind, because thoughts are so important. I am going to use the power of my mind to make this camera case explode. Okay? Okay. So I'm looking at the camera case. And I'm looking at it. And I'm concentrating. And I'm imagining it exploding. Okay? And I'm imagining it and really imagining it. And I'm using my best effort here to make this camera case explode just by thinking about it. Now, I could stand here for 2 hours and I could cut the video so that you don't get bored. And I can guarantee you that by the end, and I'm really trying hard here, I cannot make this camera case explode. Why didn't you try this at home? Why didn't you put something in front of you, be it, you know, like a glass ornament or something like that, and every morning when you get up and every night before you go to bed, stare at this glass or whatever, this ornament, and see if you can make it explode with your mind. And you can't do it. Because thoughts ain't worth shit. This is why I can't pay my bills with my thoughts. If I went to pay off a bill and I said to the person behind the register, excuse me, but I'd like to pay my bill. Let's say, you know, electricity bill. I'd like to pay my electricity bill with my intrusive thoughts, please. They would tell me to fuck off, because intrusive thoughts ain't worth shit. Money talks and bullshit walks. So thoughts are just thoughts. That's all they are. But they do have the power to convince you of things that absolutely have no foundation. So that's the thing with thought action fusion. 2 elements. You have a thought, like in the case of HOCD, you think the thought, that guy's attractive, that girl's attractive, and to you, that's as good as actually doing the thing or being the thing. Okay? And you get the other side of thought action fusion, where, you know, you actually think you can make things happen. I used to visualize my cat getting killed. I mean, I'd have a thought occurring to me of my cat getting killed on the road. And I thought if I allowed that thought into awareness, that I would actually bring about that event. And that event has never happened and is never going to happen. So there's that. Okay? So let's get back to the realm of HOCD. Okay? You are convinced, you magical people out there are convinced that the universe has a different law. Okay then, how come it has a different law to you than it does to everyone else? You prove that. Be a scientist. Prove that the universe has a different set of rules for you than it does for other people. Okay? How come if your buddy's text auto-corrected to gay, you wouldn't think jack shit? Because you know Saturday night he's going to be in an alleyway doing some girl doggy style up against a dumpster. That text isn't going to affect him, so how does it affect you? You know, it's with magical thinking, as I said, and thought action fusion, the line between thought and action becomes fuzzy. It becomes very blurred. Okay? So these thoughts are taken very, very seriously. But the thing is, as with any thoughts, and I've said this a billion times before, you know, if you treat an intrusive thought the way that you treated your other thoughts and deem them unworthy of your notice, you know, can you imagine a king on a throne? Imagine back in the day, you had a king on the throne. And what the king acknowledges has worth. What the king chooses to ignore is as good as dead. It's a non-entity. If you choose not to ignore the thought, you know, because that's distraction in a sense, but to allow the thoughts into consciousness and to not give them any validity at all, they'll pass by on their own. The reason why thoughts are sticking, and the reason why, and that's including magical thinking stuff, is because you're giving them too much importance. So, you know, OCD, in my opinion, consists of two things: avoidance and compulsions. You eliminate avoidance and you eliminate compulsions, and you basically eliminate OCD. You know, there's more to it than that, obviously. So, my recommendation for people who, say, for example, get their text autocorrects to gay. Oh, it's a sign from the universe. It's telling me what I am. What I would do if that was me is I would deliberately move into it, move into the anxiety, okay? And I would deliberately text gay to myself. Get up in the morning, text yourself gay. When you go to bed, before you go to bed at night, text yourself gay, and multiple times throughout the day. Move into it. You know, if you were a boxer and you were 5'10", you know, like Joe Frazier or Mike Tyson or that type of fighter, right? And you were fighting a guy who's 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", your arms are not going to be long enough to fight that guy. So what have you got to do? You've got to move into him. You've got to get in close, right? You've got to move towards the opponent, get inside his reach. You've got to slip the straight punches, and you've got to weave the round punches, okay? And you've got to get inside and attack. Same with anxiety, the same with OCD. You've got to move into it. So if you see a sign, you know, while you're walking down the street that says gay, you know, and you quickly cross the road or something, I wouldn't. I'd stay on that side of the road and I would look at that sign. I would deliberately move into it. If you were walking down the side of the street that you later find out that gays walk up and down that street, do you know what I would do? I would walk up and down that street constantly. In fact, I would be like a madman doing it. I would walk up and down it. I wouldn't turn it into, a neurotic episode, but I would literally do whatever my OCD is telling me not to do. So the OCD tells you to walk across to the other side of the street? No, I would walk up and down that street constantly until the anxiety comes down. So, there'd be other things as well. It's like when my mother was alive, there'd be stupid things. There'd be things like signs, like good news or bad news or bad news. That means my mother's going to die, because I had this terrible fear that revolved around my mother passing away, or I'd see a sign that said no entry. No entry. That means there's no way of saving my mother. Or, I'd see a sign of, but what I should have done at the time is embraced it, not go against it, but embrace it. There was another one, it's like dead end. Dead. Oh, that's referring to my mother, or something like that. So whatever it is, whether it's what I would call standard magical thinking, where, you think that random events are meaningful coincidences, or whether it's you think a thought and you think you can make it happen, or you think a thought and you think it's as good as it actually happening, whatever it is, embrace it. I had it terrible. I suffered with very, very bad magical thinking, and I've referenced this in certain videos, including, I got a video called The Terror of Pure Obsession. And I referenced this there. And it's absolutely terrifying. It's so real. And people say, it feels so real, it feels so real. Well, use a news flash. OCD does feel very, very real. Because if it did not, you would not have a problem in the first place. To people who have contamination OCD, what do you think they're going to go through? When they think that those germs are going to kill them, or kill their family members, or it's going to harm them in some way, it all feels very, very real. I remember, speaking of that as well, I don't want to go off on tangents, and I go off on tangents, and but we just going with the flow here, okay? So if you're sticking with, God bless, okay? But I had a little moment some time ago about germs, and it was just a fleeting thing, and I thought before I let it go, before I was afraid it might escalate, I deliberately dirtied myself. I moved into it. Just like the boxing analogy, I moved into it. I didn't move away from it. And that was it. I forgot about it. It's magical thinking is a horrible thing. So for all you HOCD guys out there, if the text auto-corrects the gay, if you walk on the same side of the street as and you find out gays walk on that side, if you see a sign that says gay, if a gay is wearing the same colour t-shirt that you were wearing, there are trillions of examples you can use, okay? The brace incident where the guy was wearing a brace, and because a gay guy was wearing a brace, he wanted his brace removed. Whatever OCD is telling you to do the opposite. Move in to the trigger. Move into it. Because when you move into it, OCD will go, oh fuck. He's not cowering from us anymore. And it'll get worse before it gets better. And this is what a lot of OCD people don't understand, is that it will get worse before it gets better. You know, the anxiety, when you stand up to your fears, just like if you stood up to a bully, you know, it'll get worse before it gets better. You've got to go through the fight with the bully before you can come out on the other side. And you know, that's what it is with people just don't want to feel discomfort. They don't want to feel any type of discomfort whatsoever. I said in my Facebook group last night, I said, would I be correct in saying that it would be less painful actually knowing you were gay than it would be not knowing? Okay? And some people come forward and said, yes, it would be less painful if we knew, because if we know, we know. But it's the not knowing. Okay? And I had an episode recently, and I'm going to say this very quickly because this video is about magical thinking, okay? But I had an episode, I just wanted to add this in while I remember it. A rift happened in my family some time ago, and there were the vast majority of people on one side and a small percentage on another side, okay? Me, I tried to be everyone's friend. And by choosing to be everyone's friend, in a sense, I'm the one that got left out in the cold and suffered a great deal of loneliness as a result. And even though things are better now, things are not quite, you know, they're not fully restored, I wouldn't have said anyway. But anyway, I would think to myself, and especially when I've been drinking, if I've had a drink, I'd start ruminating, and I'd be, why didn't they bother with me? Why wouldn't they answer my calls? Why did I go down to the bar and I got ignored by somebody? Why doesn't so-and-so call me anymore? Why doesn't this one, you know, knock my door anymore? Blah, 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 etc. And I realized that it was the not knowing that was killing me. And this is the thing, and it all goes back to uncertainty. You know, somebody would rather know for sure that they're gay than not know what they are, because they feel crushed by not knowing. It's the not knowing, uncertainty, doubt. This is what eats them. And it's all about getting comfortable with not knowing. And once I realized this, I stopped overthinking. Because I thought, I'm never going to get an answer. I'm never going to get an answer why, you know, this one doesn't call anymore. And people got their own lives to live anyway. But I thought I'd just add that in there, because people do tend to, when somebody has a magical thought, it will haunt them. If they don't stand up to it, it will haunt them. For example, the text, autocorrects to gay. People will spend days wondering, why did it autocorrect to gay? Why did it autocorrect to gay? It's a sign. And the same as anything, the only way to beat it is through. Like a roadblock. Imagine you were an outlaw and there was police in front of you and police behind you. And the only way to escape it is to go through. So you step on the gas and you go through the police blockade. Boom! And you go straight through. That's the way to beat anything, is to move into it. Anyway, I've been talking long enough, as I do. But before I go, I'd just like to say there's a few books, you know, that you could get your hands on to read. And that's Needing to Know for Sure. That's a good book. And Overcoming Unwanted Intrusive Thoughts is a very good book. John Hirschfield's book, mindfulness for OCD or something like that. Everyday mindfulness, the workbook. There's one that's actually therapist recommended. You can buy that. Did I mention Chrissy Hodges? That's a terrific book to read. And there's also Chrissy Hodges most of you probably know. She's got a channel on YouTube. You should watch that. Brian, OCD Mindful, he deserves a mention. Very underrated channel. You should watch his stuff. Nathan Peterson is another guy. And two of my favorites actually are Patrick McGrath. There's a guy on YouTube called Patrick McGrath. I do believe he's a clinical psychologist who specializes in OCD. And he does a lot of these videos with questions and answers. And I think that you should listen to his question. Because I tell you what I do. I go on the running machine up the gym and I'll put YouTube on my headphones, connected to my phone, obviously. And I will listen to his sessions as I'm on the treadmill. Brilliant. And there's Stuart Ralph, who does the OCD stories, and he does interviews with all the great ones. Michael Greenberg, who does rumination focused ERP, and Grayson and Phillipson and all those different people. And, really, if you're going to study HOCD, people got a tendency to research their themes. They Google their themes. But what they should be Googling is pure OCD. Google pure OCD, because it all comes, doesn't matter whether it's harm OCD, HOCD, whatever, pedophile OCD, it all comes under the umbrella of pure obsessional. Pure obsessional OCD. So that's what you should be, Googling and moving into your fears. And as I say in every video, what you need is a mental health professional, because you could be doing compulsions and things like that you are not even aware of. You could be ruminating and not even be aware of it. Okay? And there's a big difference between rumination and intrusive thoughts. So anyway, to cap off, because I get a big mouth and I talk too much, let's get the bullet points here. Okay? You are not special. I am not special. We are all just unique. The laws of the universe do not apply differently to us than they do to other people. Okay? Do experiments with your mind. Get a glass and put it in front of you and stare at it and try to make the glass crack just by thinking about it. And you will find that thoughts are bullshit. Okay? Whenever you get into a random, whenever you experience a random event and you start interpreting it as a meaningful coincidence. For example, a sign being there, or the text autocorrecting, or whatever the case may be, move into it. Don't move away from it, move into it. Okay? And as for intrusive thoughts, the thought action fusion, you think that just by having a thought is as good as actually being that thing. Same thing, pull the thought in. And I'll give you a great example. And I thought about this some time ago, but I keep forgetting to put it into videos. Right, okay. This is no disrespect to women, okay? There's some women who can fight, believe that, okay? But most women don't know how to fight, okay? They fight woman style. And have you noticed that with women, they pull each other's hair? They got each other by the hair, haven't they? They sort of, one's got one by the hair, one's got the other by the hair. And what happens when women pull each other by the hair? They try to grab the arm of the person pulling their hair, and they try pushing that person off. But when you do that, that's actually tearing your own hair out by the fucking roots. So what you're doing is you're hurting yourself by pushing that person away because they've got your hair. When somebody grabs you by the hair, you pull them into you. You pull them into you. That's what you do. And with intrusive thoughts, you know, whatever type they are. You know, I always repeat myself. That's just me, okay? I'm just a repeater. With an intrusive thought, the same as with a pull-in hair analogy, you pull the thought into you. You allow it to be, you allow it to exist, and you sap all the importance out of it. Yes, when you let the intrusive thought in, whether it's a regular intrusive thought, what if I'm gay, or whether it's a magical thinking thought that, you know, perhaps you're going to make something happen, you know, just by thinking about it. Whatever the thought is, allow it to be. Yes, allow yourself to have anxiety. At the end of the day, say to yourself, who the fuck am I that I'm not to have anxiety? Am I special? Is this OCD telling me I'm special again? I am a human being, and I'm allowed to feel anxiety, and I embrace it. So the thought comes in, hurts you, allow it to hurt you, sit with it, and allow it to be. And of course, if you walk along one side of the street and you find out that that's a side of the street that all the gays occupy, then literally by deliberately walking up and down that street, you're going to feel the same anxiety. And allow yourself to feel it, obviously without doing any mental compulsions, any checking, any ruminating, and any suppression or anything like that. Anyway, guys, I hope this video is of some use to you, and I will catch up with you soon. Okay? Later, guys. Take care. Bye.